Part 1. Every negotiation makes you weaker. Every time you negotiate with weakness, weakness wins. Not because you are incapable, not because you are lazy, but because every compromise teaches your mind who is really in control. And eventually, your future becomes the result of those negotiations. Take a moment and think about your day so far. How many promises did you make to yourself? How many did you keep? Because today, we are going to talk about one of the most invisible habits that destroys potential. A habit so common that most people never notice it. Negotiating with yourself. Now let's begin. Imagine an alarm clock ringing at 6 in the morning. You made the decision yesterday. You promised yourself, tomorrow will be different. Tomorrow you will wake up early, exercise, focus, move forward. And when the alarm rings, for a brief moment, everything is clear. Then a voice appears, a familiar voice. Just 10 more minutes. You're tired. You deserve more rest. Start tomorrow. And suddenly, the negotiation begins. This moment seems small, almost insignificant. But it is not. Because that moment is about much more than sleep. It is about leadership. Who is in control? Your goals or your comfort? Now here's something important. Most people think success is built through major decisions. But often, success is built through tiny moments, tiny victories, tiny acts of discipline, tiny choices nobody else sees. And many of those choices happen during negotiations with yourself. Now imagine two people. Both have the same goal. Both want to improve. Both want success. The first person negotiates constantly. Every commitment becomes optional. Every plan becomes flexible. Every promise becomes temporary. The second person operates differently. When she decides, the decision is finished. No debate, no discussion, no emotional bargaining. And over time, their lives become completely different. Why? Because discipline grows through consistency, not intention. Now let's go deeper. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing that a single compromise does not matter. After all, what difference can one missed workout make? One delayed task, one extra hour of distraction, one broken promise. The answer seems obvious. Very little. And in isolation, that is true. But life is rarely shaped by isolated decisions. Life is shaped by patterns. Now imagine a person breaking a promise to himself. Once, nothing changes. Twice, still nothing dramatic. 10 times, 20 times, 100 times. Something begins happening. His mind starts learning. Learning that promises are optional. Learning that commitments are negotiable. Learning that discomfort can always be avoided. This is dangerous because eventually, the person no longer trusts himself. Now imagine another person. She keeps small promises, not perfectly, but consistently. And something different begins happening. Trust grows. Confidence grows. Self-respect grows. Not because of talent, because of reliability. This is critical, because confidence is often the result of keeping promises to yourself. Now here's something deeper. Every negotiation has a hidden cost. Most people only see the immediate reward, the extra sleep, the comfort, the relief, the avoidance, but they fail to see the deeper consequence. Every negotiation strengthens a habit. Now imagine a path through a forest. The first time you walk it, the trail is barely visible. The second time, it becomes clearer. The third time, even clearer. Eventually, a permanent path appears. The same thing happens in your mind. Every time you negotiate with weakness, you strengthen that pathway. Every time you obey comfort, you make comfort more powerful. And eventually, comfort begins making decisions for you. Now let's go deeper. Many people think discipline is about force, about becoming tougher, harder, more aggressive. But true discipline is often simpler than that. It is the ability to stop debating. Think about that. When successful people decide to do something, they often spend less energy negotiating. The decision has already been made. The action follows automatically. Now imagine brushing your teeth. Most people do not negotiate about it. They simply do it. The habit is established. The decision is finished. Imagine applying that same principle to exercise, learning, work, personal growth. This is where transformation begins, not through motivation, through reduced negotiation. Now here's something important. Your mind is incredibly skilled at creating excuses, and the excuses usually sound reasonable. That's why they are dangerous. The voice rarely says, destroy your future. The voice says, take one day off. Start next week. You've earned a break. One time won't matter. And because the excuses sound harmless, people accept them again and again until years disappear. Now imagine another person. She hears the same excuses, the same resistance, the same temptation, but she recognizes something powerful. Not every thought deserves obedience. This realization changes everything, because many people treat every thought as a command. Successful people often treat thoughts as suggestions, and suggestions can be rejected. Now let's go deeper. One of the reasons negotiations become dangerous is because they occur during moments of discomfort, and discomfort clouds judgment. Now imagine standing at the edge of a cold swimming pool. Your body wants warmth, comfort, safety. Every instinct says, stay where you are. But once you jump, the resistance disappears. This pattern appears everywhere in life. The anticipation of discomfort is often worse than the discomfort itself. Yet many people spend years negotiating with discomfort they never actually face. Now here's something even deeper. The person you become is determined by which voice you repeatedly obey. The voice of comfort or the voice of growth. Both exist. Every day, every decision, every opportunity, and each choice strengthens one of them. Now imagine yourself 10 years from now. What version of you is being built today? The version that keeps negotiating? Or the version that keeps moving? Because every negotiation is casting a vote for your future identity, a vote for who you are becoming. Another powerful example is Jocko Willink. He often emphasizes discipline over motivation, not because motivation is bad, but because motivation disappears. Discipline remains, and discipline grows stronger when people stop negotiating with themselves. Now think about your own life. Where are your biggest negotiations happening? In the morning? With exercise? With work? With distractions? With difficult conversations? These questions matter deeply, because your future is often decided in moments nobody else sees, moments where comfort and growth are competing for control. Now let's step back for a moment. This message is not about perfection. Everyone struggles. Everyone feels resistance. Everyone hears the voice of comfort. The difference is what happens next. In the next part, we will go even deeper. We will explore why comfort always wants more, why excuses become addictive, and why the people who create extraordinary lives learn how to end negotiations before they begin. Because in the end, every time you negotiate with weakness, weakness gets stronger. Part 2. Why comfort always wants more. The problem with comfort is that it is never satisfied. Give it one excuse and it asks for another. Give it one compromise and it demands a second. That is why small negotiations eventually become a way of life. Take a moment and think about this honestly. Have you ever noticed how one excuse often leads to another? You skip one workout, then another, then another. You delay one important task, then another, then another. At first, the decision feels harmless, but over time, something begins changing. Not your schedule, not your circumstances, your standards. And that is where the real danger begins. Now let's begin. Most people believe their biggest problem is laziness. But often, that is not true. The real problem is negotiation, because negotiation slowly lowers standards. Now imagine a person deciding to wake up at 6 every morning. The first day, the alarm rings. Immediately, a conversation begins. Just today, you need more sleep. You can make up for it later. And eventually, he agrees. The alarm is turned off. The bed wins. Now imagine the next morning. The negotiation returns. But this time, it is easier. Why? Because yesterday created evidence. Evidence that promises can be broken. Evidence that comfort can win. Evidence that discipline is optional. This is critical because every compromise teaches your brain something. The question is, what are you teaching it? Now here's something important. Comfort always wants more. Think about that. Nobody becomes average through one decision. Nobody ruins potential through one excuse. The process is gradual. Comfort expands. One compromise becomes normal. Then another, and eventually, what once felt unacceptable feels completely ordinary. Now imagine a person who once exercised every morning. After a while, he skips one session, then 2, then 5. Months later, he can barely remember what consistency felt like. Not because he changed overnight, because comfort slowly moved the line. This happens everywhere, with health, with money, with discipline, with relationships, with personal growth. Comfort always asks for more territory. Now let's go deeper. One of the most dangerous phrases in life is, "I'll do it later." It sounds harmless, reasonable, even responsible, but often, later becomes never. Now imagine a person postponing a goal. Not forever, just for a week, then another week, then another month. Years pass, and eventually, the dream becomes a memory. Not because the dream was impossible, because action was delayed repeatedly. This is why successful people respect time differently. They understand something powerful. The future is created in the present, not someday, today. Now here's something deeper. Every negotiation weakens self-trust. Imagine having a friend who constantly breaks promises. Would you trust them? Probably not. Now imagine doing the same thing to yourself. Every time you promise to start and don't. Every time you commit and quit. Every time you decide and retreat, you slowly lose credibility with your own mind. This creates a hidden problem because eventually you stop believing yourself. You say, "I'll start Monday," and deep inside, a voice responds, "No, you won't," because you've heard it before. This is one of the biggest reasons people feel stuck, not because they lack ability, because they no longer trust themselves. Now imagine another person. She starts making tiny promises, very small promises, and she keeps them every time, not because they are impressive, because they are consistent. And slowly, something begins returning. Trust, confidence, self-respect. This is powerful because self-respect is earned, not imagined. Now let's go deeper. Many people spend years searching for motivation, watching videos, reading books, waiting for inspiration. But motivation is unreliable. Some days it appears, some days it disappears. Now imagine building your life around something so unpredictable. Progress becomes inconsistent. Momentum disappears. Growth slows. Now imagine another person. She understands something different. She acts whether she feels motivated or not because she enjoys discomfort, because she refuses to negotiate with it. This creates an enormous advantage. Because while others are waiting to feel ready, she is already moving. Now here's something important. The strongest people are not always the most motivated people. They are often the people who have ended the argument. The decision is already made. Exercise is happening. Work is happening. Learning is happening. Whether motivation appears or not, this changes everything because energy is no longer wasted on internal debates. Now imagine two people. The first person spends 30 minutes arguing with himself before starting work. The second person simply begins. One person loses energy, the other preserves it. And over years, that difference becomes enormous. Now let's go deeper. Another reason negotiation is dangerous is because it creates emotional dependence. People begin acting only when conditions feel perfect, when motivation feels high, when confidence feels strong, when circumstances feel ideal. But life rarely provides perfect conditions. Now imagine waiting for perfect weather before planting seeds. You might never plant anything. The same principle applies to life. The people who succeed often move under imperfect conditions. They start before they feel ready. They act before they feel confident. They move before they feel certain. This is one of the greatest advantages a person can develop. Now here's something even deeper. Every negotiation creates an identity, not instantly, gradually. When you repeatedly choose comfort, you begin seeing yourself differently. When you repeatedly choose discipline, you begin seeing yourself differently too. Identity is built through evidence, and evidence comes from action. Now imagine a person who keeps promises for an entire year, not perfectly, but consistently. By the end of that year, he is not the same person because he has accumulated proof that he can be trusted, proof that he can endure discomfort, proof that he can lead himself. This is how transformation happens, not through one giant breakthrough, through repeated victories over negotiation. Another powerful example is Marcus Aurelius. His writings often emphasized self-control, discipline, and mastery over impulses because he understood something timeless. The person who cannot govern himself will struggle to govern anything else. That lesson remains true today. Now think about your own life. What negotiations keep repeating? What excuses have become familiar? What promises keep getting postponed? These questions matter deeply because every negotiation is shaping your future, whether you realize it or not. Now let's step back for a moment. Comfort is not the enemy. Rest is not the enemy. Enjoyment is not the enemy. The enemy is surrendering control. The enemy is allowing comfort to become the decision maker. In the final part, we will go even deeper. We will explore why extraordinary people stop arguing with excuses, why action becomes easier when decisions become final, and why your future may depend on the negotiations you choose to end today. Because in the end, comfort never stops asking for more. The question is, will you keep saying yes? Part 3. The future belongs to people who decide once. Every time you argue with an excuse, the excuse gets stronger. Every time you obey an excuse, it becomes a habit. And every habit eventually becomes a life. That is why extraordinary people stop negotiating. Take a moment and think about this question honestly. How much of your life has been spent deciding, not acting? Deciding, thinking about acting, preparing to act, planning to act, waiting to act. Many people spend years standing at the edge of change, not because they lack ability, because they never stop negotiating. Now let's begin. Imagine two people facing the exact same challenge. Both feel tired. Both feel resistance. Both feel discomfort. The first person begins a conversation. Maybe later. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe when I have more energy. Minutes pass. The negotiation grows. And eventually, the action disappears. Now imagine the second person. The same resistance appears. The same discomfort appears. But something is different. The decision was already made. There is nothing left to discuss. So the action happens, not because it feels good, because it was decided. This is one of the biggest invisible differences between average people and extraordinary people. Extraordinary people often spend less time deciding and more time doing. Now here's something important. The easiest way to defeat yourself is to repeatedly reopen decisions. Think about that. Imagine deciding to exercise, then renegotiating every morning. Imagine deciding to save money, then renegotiating every purchase. Imagine deciding to study, then renegotiating every evening. Your energy disappears, not because the task is difficult, because the decision keeps changing. Now imagine another person. The decision is final. Exercise happens. Learning happens. Growth happens. Not because motivation appears, because the choice has already been made. This creates an incredible advantage, because mental energy is preserved. Now let's go deeper. Many people believe discipline is exhausting, but often, indecision is far more exhausting. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack. Now imagine stopping every 10 steps to ask yourself whether you should continue. The journey becomes unbearable, not because of the weight, because of the constant debate. This is exactly what happens in life. People become emotionally exhausted, not from action, but from endless internal negotiation. Now imagine another person. She simply keeps walking, step after step, decision after decision. And because she stops debating, progress becomes easier. This is powerful, because clarity creates momentum. Now here's something deeper. Every excuse wants immediate comfort. But your future wants something different. Your future wants consistency. Your future wants patience. Your future wants discipline. And these two voices rarely agree. Now imagine a person standing at a fork in the road. One path offers comfort now. The other offers growth later. The first path feels pleasant immediately. The second path feels difficult immediately. Most people judge paths by how they feel today. Successful people judge paths by where they lead tomorrow. This is a life-changing difference because direction matters more than emotion. Now let's go deeper. One of the greatest lessons in life is that feelings are temporary, but decisions compound. You will not always feel motivated. You will not always feel confident. You will not always feel inspired. But if your actions depend entirely on feelings, your progress becomes unpredictable. Now imagine a ship crossing an ocean. The captain does not change direction. Every time the wind changes, the destination remains the same. And because the destination remains the same, the ship eventually arrives. The same principle applies to life. People who constantly follow feelings often drift. People who follow decisions often arrive. Now here's something important. The strongest people are not people who never hear excuses. They hear them every day. The difference is that excuses no longer have authority. The voice still exists, but it is no longer the leader. Now imagine a successful entrepreneur, a disciplined athlete, a respected leader. Do you think they never feel tired? Never feel discouraged? Never feel resistance? Of course they do. They are human. The difference is simple. They stopped treating every feeling as an instruction, and that changes everything. Now let's go deeper. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, something invisible happens. You build evidence. Evidence that you can be trusted. Evidence that you can follow through. Evidence that your words matter. And over time, that evidence becomes identity. Now imagine a person who keeps promises for years, not perfectly, but consistently. Eventually, he no longer asks, "Can I do this?" Because he already knows. His past actions have answered the question. This is one of the greatest benefits of discipline. It removes doubt, because proof is stronger than hope. Now here's something even deeper. Many people are waiting for a breakthrough, a life-changing moment, a sudden transformation. But real transformation is usually quieter. It happens during ordinary moments, when nobody is watching, when nobody is applauding, when nobody cares. The alarm rings. The work begins. The distraction appears. The excuse appears. And the person chooses growth anyway. Those moments rarely look important, but they change everything. Because lives are built in private before they are admired in public. Now imagine two futures. In the first future, you continue negotiating, continue delaying, continue compromising, continue choosing comfort whenever discomfort appears. Years pass, and very little changes. Now imagine the second future. You begin ending negotiations. One by one, you stop arguing with every excuse. You stop reopening every decision. You stop waiting for perfect feelings. And instead, you act. Not dramatically, consistently. Years pass, and eventually, the gap between those futures becomes enormous. This is how extraordinary lives are created. Not through luck. Not through magic, not through perfect motivation. through repeated decisions that are honored again and again and again. Another powerful example is Kobe Bryant. People often remember his talent, but what separated him was his commitment to standards. He did not negotiate with every difficult practice. He did not renegotiate every goal. He showed up repeatedly, and over time, those repeated actions created greatness. The lesson applies far beyond sports, because greatness in any field is usually built the same way, one disciplined decision at a time. Now think about your own life. What negotiations need to end? What excuse keeps returning? What promise have you been postponing? These questions matter deeply because your future is not waiting for motivation. It is waiting for action. Now let's step back for a moment. This message is not about becoming perfect. You will still make mistakes. You will still struggle. You will still face resistance. Everyone does. The goal is not perfection. The goal is leadership. The ability to lead yourself, even when comfort wants control. Now here's the final truth. Every time you negotiate with weakness, weakness grows stronger. Every time you keep your word, you grow stronger. And over time, those choices become a life. Before we finish, ask yourself honestly, who has been making your decisions lately? Your goals or your excuses? Because the future belongs to the people who decide once and then act. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Keep your promises. Keep moving forward. Keep leading yourself. And see you in the next story.